Welcome to Unmute Yourself. I'm your host, Jennifer Carter, and I am so glad you're here. This podcast is about lifting the curtain on leadership, purpose, and the real stories behind people who dared to do things differently. We'll talk about how they found their path, the struggles they faced, and how they built something that truly matters. Now, these are everyday people that do extraordinary things. And I want you to know you are capable of that too. And so for today's conversation, I am honored to welcome Barbara Wiseman. Hello, Barbara.
Hi, Jennifer. Thanks for having me on.
Yes. Now,
Yeah.
Barbara, let me tell you a little bit about her. So for over 40 years, Barbara has led humanitarian and environmental initiatives worldwide. She's the co founder and president of the Earth Organization, which chapters in 9 countries. Her journey began in the 1970s, helping to resettle 60,000 refugees and later hosting the nationally syndicated radio program Building a Better World. Today, she champions science based, non political solutions to some of the toughest challenges facing our planet, from oil spills to wildlife rescue to hidden water solutions in drought prone regions. My mind is already blown, y'all. Every time I see everything, Barbara, that you've done, it's just astounding to me. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, thanks. Thanks so much.
Now, throughout your career, you've been serving communities and the planet. So how did you get into this and what first called you to do this work?
I was a management consultant and was the executive director of a good sized management consulting company and was really enjoying the work that I was doing, helping mainly private practice medical people learn how to better manage and their companies. And a very, very dear friend of mine, Lawrence Anthony, who is a world renowned conservationist, this was in 2003, when the tanks were rolling into Baghdad. He, at the beginning of the war in Iraq, he realized that the zoo in Baghdad was one of the largest zoos in the world. It was definitely the largest zoo in the Middle East, and that they were in big trouble because, understandably, a zoo is one of the first things to go to the bottom of most people's priority list in the middle of a war, right? But he knew that these animals were probably just going to get wiped out. And he had a wildlife preserve down in South Africa and was extremely well known for his almost mythological relationship that he had with a herd of wild elephant. So, but he knew what was going to happen to this zoo, and he just made a personal decision that that was not going to happen on his watch. And so, while everyone else was fleeing Baghdad, he managed to get into Baghdad and ended up being there for 6 months in the middle of that war zone, taking care of and protecting the animals that remained. So, 2 months after he first got there, four of the top environmental organizations in the world showed up ostensibly to help. And they were only there for a few days. They raised millions of dollars off of the backs of the PR of being there. And then
Mhm.
they left. And none of that money actually went to anything related to the Baghdad Zoo situation. So he was very disappointed in what he saw. And at that point, he called me and he asked me if I would help him start an environmental organization that would be dedicated to some very basic principles like taking projects on and completing them and finding the true core sources of environmental issues and finding solutions that work for everyone involved, not
Mhm.
just this spotted owl, but for people, jobs, economy, industry, that sort of thing. So it was from that experience that our organization, that he and I co-founded our organization.
Wow. I like what you said about how it doesn't just help one section of the world. It really ties into the community and the economy. So I am curious, where was the turning point that you knew that you had to step in and lead this? Like what
That's
made you
a
say yes?
Yeah, I'm so glad that you asked that question, right? Because my first thought, I loved Lawrence and I admired him so much. And so my first thought was, well, that would be fun. Go play with Lawrence and some animals, right?
Right,
But
right.
but I thought what I'm doing is so important. I'm helping these people actually get in better control of their companies and their lives and not being trapped by their businesses, being able to be kind of up and out of it and have them expand and reach and help all the people they wanted to reach, but not have it consume their lives. So, with more prosperity, it made it possible for them to be involved in other community betterment organizations and activities. So I was looking at this as a very holistic thing. Anyway, but I so admired Lawrence and what he was doing that I decided that before I politely told him no thank you, that I would step back and take a look at what was happening environmentally in the environmental field, if you will. And, I, like everyone, had heard about all of the alarming situations going on via the media and, we're all going to die tomorrow if we don't handle blah, 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 that sort of thing, and was skeptical of that, but still knew that there were some very serious environmental situations going on. But it wasn't an area that I had really looked at closely before. So I decided to just use some of my management skills
Mm.
of, looking at statistics and seeing if I could get more of an understanding of what was going on in this industry, this environmental industry, if you will. And the more I looked, the more appalled I became. Not that there weren't some massive environmental situations going on that really are impacting and will impact mankind's ability to survive well on this planet and thrive. But there was so much false data that when you actually looked at statistics became just jumped out at me. There was so much false data. There were so many things that were solutions that were being applied that were ending up just being the next problem that you had to solve.
Oh, yes, a
Right.
chain reaction.
Yeah. And, going after the wrong source of situations. And so whenever you do that, the ship will just continue to sink. If you're not handling the hole in the ship will just continue to sink. You may be rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic, or
Right.
creating a beautiful new menu for the passengers, or suing the ship's owner, but if you're not handling the hole in the hull, it's going down. And I saw so many things where the wrong targets were being focused on for actually resolving something. So I felt at that point sort of duty bound to help Lawrence create this organization and try to focus in on those things that are actually going on, right? And
Mhm.
that actually need to be addressed, and help others by stripping off some of the false data that's being purveyed and getting people focused on those things that, if they handle that, will actually make things better for everyone.
That's so tough because you've gotta cut through the noise and be able to shout your mission from the rooftops and what is true and real, backed with scientific information,
Yeah.
so that people are getting on board and it's not drowned out by everything else in the world.
Yeah, it's so
Right.
true.
Right.
We
So
actually created a 6-step standard operating procedure that whenever we take on an environmental situation, the first step is we research it to make sure it actually does exist. Because sometimes you find that something's just being promoted by the media and being, blown up completely out of proportion. Maybe it exists, but it's not nearly the
Mhm.
catastrophic situation it's being made out to be. And sometimes it just doesn't exist at all, right? It's something totally different going on. So the first step is make sure it actually exists.
Wow.
The second step is, if it does, then do the necessary research to find out what is the core of, what is the source of the problem. And then once we've identified that, then step 3 is to then find a solution that, when applied, will actually turn that decaying situation
Mhm.
around and get it moving back into stably moving back into a pro survival direction. Then step 4 is actually get that solution implemented. Either, depending on what the situation is, we either do it ourselves or we get it into the hands of another group or groups that will competently do it and make sure that they have it fully in hand and are moving forward with it. And then step 5 is take all the lessons learned from that and put it into educational materials. And so, again, depending on what the situation is, we've written educational materials for government and oil and gas industry, all the way to just creating educational materials for children to strip away some of the false data that's being purveyed about it and put in its place what's actually going on, and what each of us can do in our own lives to be part of the solution instead of contributing to the problem.
Wow.
Step
I
6 is then
oh, I'm
rinse,
so sorry.
repeat. Sorry, I interrupted you,
Rinse,
but
repeat. No, keep going.
rinse, repeat. Yeah, go find the next environmental situation and then run it through those same set of steps. So you're right. It's hard because sometimes it can take years of research to actually get to the bottom of something, find a solution that's really a solution, and then get it implemented. But it's exciting every step of the way as
Mhm.
we're finding the truth of these situations. And then when you see real solutions start getting implemented and real improvements start happening as a result of that, it's very fulfilling as an activity.
I really am getting that you are so focused to doing the best job possible to not only find and implement solutions, but to educate others.
Yes.
So, one of the things that I was wondering as I was listening is the earth and the world is so big, and oftentimes people are like, "Oh, I can't do anything. I'm just one person." So, for you, how do you bring other people along to believe in the work that you're doing?
Well, that's a good question. It just comes down to talking about it, That's what communication is, just all communication. It's, social media, marketing, doing events, talking to people, doing podcasts, that sort of thing. Because most people resonate well with this. Most people can think of all sorts of, at least a few examples in their lives where they saw a solution being implemented that was just a wrong solution that just made things worse.
Yeah, band-aids.
Yeah, or, suspected, if not known, that some of the information that they were getting from the media, for example, was not correct, right? And that, was putting their attention on things that maybe the attention didn't need to really be on and taking attention away from things that really did need to be handled.
Wow.
So I think our message really, really resonates. We also have created an educational program and we coined a term, which is cooperative ecology. And it's all about the most fundamental or one of the most fundamental laws of this world, which is that there's a tremendous interdependency in any given ecosystem
Mhm.
between all of the elements in that ecosystem, whether it's life, whether it's, people, animals, microbes, whatever, and the physical world part of that. So there's this tremendous interdependency, among all of these factors that if they're working well together, if they're working towards mutual enhancement, causes that ecosystem to thrive. And this principle applies to whether you're talking about a home, right? Or you're talking about the ocean or a park or, wherever, all of these different ecosystems. So cooperative ecology is the study of those interrelationships and can actually factor in how valuable any individual or any species or any science actually
Mhm.
is based on how much does it actually contribute to and enhance and strengthen the factors within its ecosystem. So actually it's a fascinating study. But we had to figure out, how do you get an 8-year-old child to get this concept?
Right.
And yeah,
Right.
and we figured out how to do it, which is we have this whole series of practical drills. We have educational materials that are based on each of these age groups. But we have this whole series of 4-step exercises, and it's the same exercise for the most part in each of these different areas of their life. And I'll give you an example. The first one we do is step 1 is make a list of everything your mother does for you that makes your life better, happier, or
Mm.
safer, right? And then step 2 is good. Now make a list of everything you do for your mother that makes her life better, happier, or safer. And you don't have to say, wow, look how much longer your mom's list is,
Right?
right? Or anything like that. Just by doing that, they begin to see it. Step 3 is then good. Now think of something you could do for your mom that would make her life better or happier or safer and go do it. And then step 4 is good. Now step back and just take a look. Did your own life get better in any way as a result of you doing that for your mom? Then the next set of drills is the same 4 steps, but on their dad, then on one of their siblings, which is always really interesting. Like, what does
Mhm.
your older sister do for you? You know, what do you do for your
Believe
older
me, no.
sister? Right?
Right, right,
That makes
right.
your life better, happier, safer. Yeah. Sometimes that one gets some really interesting
I bet
fireworks.
it yeah.
Right? And then we have them do it on their home. What does your home do for you that makes your life better, happier, safer? What do you do for your home to make it a better, happier, safer place? And, then do something and then observe, does your life get better? Then we have them do it on a teacher and then their school and then something in their community. It could be their church. It could be, an after school program. It could be a grocery store. It doesn't matter. But the same 4 steps on something in the community, then have them go out and do it on something in nature. And as a result of that, they start to really get this concept. And then there's an additional drill or exercise where we have them go out and now pick 2 things in nature and look and see how are those 2 things helping each other? Like really look at how those 2 things are interacting and helping each other. And it's a fascinating process because we're getting such tremendously positive feedback from the students, from the
Mhm.
teachers, from the parents, and they're starting to be even more causative and responsible about taking care of nature.
I get that you see the connection in all things, and
Yes.
individuals' actions ripple beyond what they can even imagine, and it sounds like you're making it real for people, so it's not just, "Oh, this herd of elephants," or like you said earlier, "the spotted owl," but really us as human beings and the interconnectedness and how we interact with our environment and the world around us.
Mhm.
And what I love about you too is, you started in management consulting, and then it sounds like you took a hard left turn, right?
Right.
Into the Earth Organization. So, right. So what lessons stand out that you would want others, especially that are saying to themselves, "Oh, I could never do that. This is my passion, but I'm a management consultant, or I'm a product developer, or I was formerly incarcerated." Like, what do you want other people to hear to actually live their passion and chart their own path?
Do you know, it's the most important thing is to know what your goals and purposes are.
Mm.
And so many people, they really don't even know what their personal purposes or goals are. And so the first thing is to sit down, on a nice, maybe rainy afternoon,
That you're
as I'm in
experiencing
right
now,
now,
hopefully,
as I'm
yes.
experiencing right now up here in the mountains of Southern California. And just, really think about what do you want to accomplish with your life? What kind of a legacy do you want to have? What makes you happy? What gives you enjoyment? What do you want to do that will have a really good positive impact on others, on the world around you? And then with that, start backing it up from there of like, well, how could I do one thing towards that? Maybe I'm, working in my day to day 9 to 5 job and I need to keep that going
Mhm.
because I don't see a way right now where I can work towards what I really want to be doing and be making enough money to handle my family, right? So and to
Right.
support my family and do my obligations. But if you pick one thing and start doing that. Maybe it's just even setting aside a couple of hours a week to research what other people are doing in that area and how other people are actually living and surviving and supporting themselves and their families by doing something related to that goal or purpose. But it really is life is built on gradient steps.
Mm.
And you can't go from, the bottom of the ladder to the top of the ladder in one step. It just can't do it. But you can climb up to the next rung and you could take the next step and then the next step. And pretty soon you find yourself in a place that's far more gratifying. You're starting to be involved and working towards your own goals.
Mhm. Were you ever afraid that you couldn't do it?
Those little thoughts, I don't know anybody who doesn't have those kinds of little thoughts to one
Right.
degree or another that come creeping in on us at different times. One of the things that I've learned is that if there's a couple of things going on, if I start thinking that I can't do something, either I need to learn more about it. I just don't know enough about it, right? And so I need to like actually start looking for more information about it and just learn a lot more about it. Or I also take a look and see, is there anybody in my life who's telling me that I'm not a capable person, or that I can't do something, or that I shouldn't do something,
Mhm.
or, I mean, the competition is too much and, so you shouldn't get involved in doing that because you don't have a chance of making it or that kind of thing. Those kinds of comments from people are really destructive.
Absolutely.
Yeah, extremely destructive. And even if it's come from the best of intentions,
Mhm.
and I put that in quotes,
Right, because people don't wanna see
trying to
their
help
loved
you.
ones fail or fall apart or be crushed by disappointment. We get that.
Exactly.
Yes.
Or you're around somebody who's failed in their life to achieve their own goals. And so now they're just kind of projecting that onto others, right? So
Right.
it's looking at what's actually being said, who's saying it, and acknowledging that it's actually not true.
And having the boldness to just go towards what you want.
Just do it. Figure
Beautiful,
out what's the next rung on the ladder, what's the next step that you can do, and do that,
beautiful,
right?
beautiful. So, okay, so I have some rapid fire questions for you.
Okay.
Okay, and so just answer with the first thing that comes to mind.
Oh my goodness. All right.
No pressure,
This
right?
is scary.
No pressure. Okay, what is one lesson you've learned that you wish everyone knew?
Everyone can achieve their goals. I mean, really, everyone can move in the direction of being happier by working towards achieving their goals. And very often it's the action of working towards it that really brings happiness, even more than actually achieving the goal.
Achieving it.
Right. But it's the working towards it and observing that you're actually making progress, even if it's small,
Huh,
a personal, and it brings a lot of enjoyment to life. And
beautiful.
s
Yeah, so okay,
that's an important lesson. Yeah.
if you could go back and tell your younger self one thing, what would it be?
My, communicate.
Mm,
That is the most important thing I wish I had known much earlier. There were so many times when somebody said something to me, and we've all had that experience where, 15 minutes later or 15 days later, you're thinking, oh, I wish I had said blah, blah, blah. Right. But
yes,
not saying anything, just backing off is usually not the way to handle it. And it's easy to get into a situation of like, oh, well, I could never handle him, or, I could never change her mind on that, or I don't want to go there. And
mhm.
this was kind of something that was an operating basis of my parents, like, don't talk about it.
We're just gonna pretend it doesn't even
We're just
exist,
going to
and we're just
pretend
gonna
it
be
doesn't exist.
fine, everything is fine.
That's right.
Fine.
Exactly.
Yes,
Exactly. And so you end up just living with this thing and walking on eggshells all the time. And it is amazing how quickly things can get resolved with communication.
beautiful.
And communication is a two-way flow. It has
Mhm.
to include listening. It has to include ideally not interrupting, like really listening to what the other person is saying and trying to understand their viewpoint. And, not just sitting there waiting for them to stop talking so you could say what you want to say, but actually listening. And
Right.
then communicating, as honestly as possible and as kindly as
Mhm.
possible, what your viewpoint is. And it's always amazing. Things that seem like they were impossible to resolve very often can get resolved pretty quickly, but it's just comes down to communication.
Thank you so much for that. It's very profound, especially in this day and age, so thank you for
Yes.
sharing that, yes.
Yes.
Yes, so more questions. So
Okay.
what is the boldest choice you've made that has paid off?
Dropping pretty much what I was doing before and jumping in the swimming pool with Lawrence Anthony,
So exciting.
this crazy wonderful South African
Yes.
conservationist who was best friends with a herd of wild elephants. And I mean, such an amazing person to have had as a very close friend, right? This person that when he passed away in
Mm.
2012, this wild herd of elephants that he had befriended and he had rescued walked 12 miles. They perceived that he died. He was 300 miles away from his home, and they were 12 miles from the house. And they perceived he died, and they walked to the house in obvious distress. Every year for 4 years after he passed away, they returned to his house on the anniversary of his death. And so, as you said, taking that rather severe left turn, and going off in this, into this wild world was one of the best things I've ever done,
Mhm.
just so had so much fun. There's been highs, there's been lows, there's been unbelievable challenges, but it's been an extraordinary journey and it has enriched my life so much
Mm.
just by getting involved with this and being able to bring the education and the tools that I had beforehand to really, help in this area.
Yeah, so you're
Yeah.
seeing yourself as a whole person and seeing the interconnectedness of the world, and you're acting in a way that's leaving you and others moved and inspired. So, what
I
is the
hope so.
next I just from our couple conversations that we've had, you leave me moved and inspired, so I'm
Oh,
glad to
that's
know
great.
you. So, what's the next big dream that you're chasing?
My next big dream is we have vetted a number of different extremely important environmental solutions. And I was working out how do we get these solutions out broadly? We need
Mhm.
to create an army of people who know these solutions and know how to apply them and, can really help restore the planet in those areas where it's needed to far healthier, thriving place for all life. And so I've decided to create a brick and mortar training institute. And
Cool.
yeah, so I'm
Yeah,
extremely excited about it. It will be for adults interested in um, uh, having a career, a constructive career in something related to restoring the health to the planet. And there will be, the courses will be modularized so that
great.
when people come in, we'll be able to put together a training program for each individual based on what are their interests, right? Including, do they need management skills? Do they want to go out and start an environmental consulting company? Good. They're going to need some marketing and management skills and that sort of thing, in addition to understanding and knowing the solutions that can be applied. So
Very
that's my
cool.
dream. And
Very
that's,
cool.
yeah,
I
yeah.
cannot wait to see this come to
You are
fruition.
invited to the grand opening.
And I'll be there. I will find a way, Barbara, and I will be there.
That would be great, Jennifer. That would
And
be just terrific.
I just want to thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us. It's been such a powerful conversation. But before we wrap, I do want to ask, if listeners walk away remembering just one thing, what do you hope it is?
I'm gonna do a little, uh, self promotion here
Do it.
of our organization. What I really, this is a big job. To get this done, we need support. We need help. We need
Mhm.
more members. We need more volunteers. We need people talking about us to other people. And so, I really want people to go to our website, which is https what is it, colon,
Colin.
backslash, right. Not www, but that
Okay.
start.
Yes.
And then the Earth Organization, don't forget the earthorganization.org. So, go to our website, find out more about us, become a member, and get involved in some way. Makes a big difference. And we've got just a wide variety of different projects going on. We need help. We need to expand. We need to scale up what we're doing. We have some phenomenal things that we've achieved and we've done, but we still feel like we're just starting.
Yes.
So that's what I would, invite people and ask people to do as a result of this podcast.
Wonderful. Go on, check it out. I know, Barbara, we don't have time today to talk about it, unfortunately, maybe another time, but you're doing very, very cool and innovative things with the water supply, which I'm not going to get into because it's just too much and your brain will explode, y'all. So go check out theearthorganization.org. And then I would say, lastly, what has it meant for you to be able to share your story here on Unmute Yourself today?
I love being able to speak to, the broad publics
Mhm.
about what we're doing. And I so admire you, Jennifer, and what you're doing. And the whole theme of your podcast is
Thank you.
wonderful. It
Thank you.
really is wonderful. I'm sure that the people, your listeners, are dedicated and see what I see, And so I'm really honored to be on your show. I very much appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Well,
Yeah.
Barbara, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you so much for joining me and sharing your story with our listeners. And thank you to everyone listening and for showing up, reflecting, and unmuting yourself in your own way. And if today's conversation has inspired you, please share this episode, subscribe, and stay tuned for more stories of leaders creating work that truly fits and matters. And until next time, unmute yourself and step into the story only you can tell.